Welcome to Shooting Stars. Welcome wherever you are. It's T-Red and T-Trail up Lickies, and today we're going to be looking at the relationship between fungi and trees and how we can relate that to ourselves. It's a fascinating subject, and it's one of those all-encompassing ones as well. So I'm going to try not to go too deep, just give you enough for it to permeate the senses and give you a little bit of what I've been thinking about. So, fungi and mushrooms and squirrels running up trees have been on my mind recently, and mushrooms are, and fungi. Do you know, I'm not 100% sure what the difference is. But they all grow from a network of fibrous tissue which is called mycilium, and it is the network which connects trees. So it is 1 cell thick. It's the largest growing organism on the planet, and it's the inspiration for the interweb, the internet. So it allows forests and the soil, earth, to breathe and to also pass information and nutrients from one place to the next. It's truly a remarkable thing. So trees and their relationship to mushrooms. Do you know, quite some time ago I said that mycelium and mushrooms and fungi are the interface between life and death, and after having stumbled across, it was called pheasant-back mushroom in a wood close to me, I was looking at it and I thought, do you know what, death really is an illusion. Wherever you look, everything's just in a process of returning back to where it came from, which is ultimately the earth, and then it gets regenerated. So those pheasant-back mushrooms are prolific on birch trees, which are fallen. They're annual, and you can eat them. And what those mushrooms do is digest the tree and the tree fibres and the nutrients, and then they present those in a different form, which are then edible to the likes of us and other animals. If they don't get eaten, they then just fall to the floor and are decomposed and return back to the earth to help the nutrient cycle, which is a continual Hakuna Matata. It's the circle of life. So mushrooms are truly incredible. We're finding that they can clean up oil spills, they can eat plastic, we can use them to make substitute leather, which is just phenomenal. And there are more and more things we're discovering about mushrooms and fungi every day. So in kind of like the grander scale of things, mushrooms were prolific, hey? And there were giant mushroom trees, which were one of the first living organisms to proliferate this planet before dinosaurs. So some of the oldest living trees are known as Bristol pines, and they're made of spores, which is what mushrooms are made of. So they're the kind of hybrid between the two species, and they're up to 4,500 years old. Um, so yeah, majestically old. And then trees came in after that, and having done some research and put the question out to the universe, I've come across information to suggest that the trees that we presently have on the planet with us at the moment are like minnows compared to the ones we had from yesteryear. And they were giant trees, and you can see in various places across the world where these trees have come down and they've left the base of the tree trunk, and it looks like a tabletop mountain. I mean, these trees were huge, right? Massive. Which in and of itself is quite lovely where I live, because this is J.R. Tolkien's home, and there were moving trees. Hi. And talking trees. So trees and fungi are just, well, we'll get to the relationship with us in a while. But the connecting of trees in the forest, so the mycilium network is just underneath the leaf mulch, and it connects everything in the woods. So when we say, if a tree was to fall, would anybody hear it falling? Well, if no one was in the woods, then no, they wouldn't hear it falling. But the mycelium would feel it falling. And in doing that, the mycelium then would send up mushrooms, or leaders, I think they're called. They would then get a hold of the tree or come into contact with the tree. And from there, mushrooms would start growing off the decaying timber. So that kind of forms the circle of life. So the trees themselves communicate in two ways. They use pheromones, which smelly schnizzle. If they come under insect attack, they'll let off pheromones so trees next to them know that there's an insect attack or a fungal attack going on, and then those two will produce tannins. I know it's one of them, which is an acidic substance which repels pests and other bits and bobs. And then the other way that they communicate is via this mycelium network. So the mycelium run alongside the tree roots, and the trees send down chemical messages which get picked up by the mycelium. So a tree on one side of the forest can send out a message which will reach trees on the other side of the forest. And then the whole colony of trees, which is one beating organism, know that there's a potential threat coming in, and they can make necessary arrangements to protect themselves. So it's just phenomenal, hey, and mushrooms really are, well, they're the future, and fungi. So moving on, and like their relationship to us, from a fungal point of view, so our bodies contain 70 trillion, what we'd call human cells, and then 1.5 quadrillion bacterial cells, and then 10 times that fungal cells. So we're more fungi than we are human, and we are just like totally dependent on what they do. One of them is called, or like the production of proteins. So our DNA produces so many proteins, and it's only with the likes of the fungus that we have inside of us that we can produce all of the proteins that we need to effectively synthesize our body and be healthy and happy and prosper and rejuvenate. So like in our body, the fungal thing is just essential, and recently it's become apparent that the way our food is produced with a chemical which is abundant called Roundup or glyphosate kills this fungal network, and it just, wow, the consequences have been huge since 1995 or thereabouts. The rise in cancer and autism has just been phenomenal, and that in many ways, well, in quite a few ways, is down to the spraying of this Roundup. So that's our body, and then you can also refer the mycilium network, as I said at the start of the video. It was the foundation of the interweb. So where we are presently, and we're moving in, well, we are in the age of Aquarius, and information being made available, we're sharing that information on the interweb, and that's becoming more available to other beings. And like the trees, there isn't one single tree, it's a forest. So it's one entity, and they all communicate. When one tree is in need of nutrients, it'll put a message out to trees of a different species, and they'll then send nutrients to that tree to help sustain that tree. And then likewise, that species of tree will send nutrients back out. So everyone is looking out for everyone else. And that is how the forest stays healthy, or the wood. So where we are presently with the internet, so much new information is being passed, and I mean there is just a wealth of information here, and ultimately I believe we are information. We are the stories we tell ourselves, and the stories we've been brought up with. So when we start telling a new story, we move from an era of war and ill health and benefits for the few and misery for the many. The more information we share on the internet, then that gives power to the people, and we've always had that power, we've just been unaware of it. So the internet is being controlled, or at least that's what they'd like us to believe. Certainly in nature, those giant trees came down, and we're left with these, and that was reportedly done to stop the communication between this planet and, say, the heavens or the other planets. I think that's what trees do. So where we are presently, and we know that the sun is intensifying its cosmic rays and other cosmic rays, and what trees do is anchor that light, the information and the energy, and then they relay that via sugars. So the trees and the leaves turn sunlight into sugar, which then gets passed down into the ground, and then plants and ultimately us, because we eat those plants, take on that information and we get all sorts of groovy upgrades, which is happening more and more. So yeah, our relationship, and I guess it's that whole micro related through the macro. Trees would have once covered this whole planet, and you know, I think we're in a really great time where actually we know this and we know the value of trees. As they breathe in carbon dioxide, they breathe out oxygen, and as we breathe in that oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. So we've grown up together, and I think more trees are now being planted than are being felled, but depending on where you pick up your information, whether that be the alternate current or the direct current, tells a different story. So yeah, we're in a truly exciting place. We're learning now that organic food is just so very important for us, because it contains information, and we are that information. Our bodies are the process of what we eat and what we believe, and who we hang around. The internet has been an incredible thing. I don't think anyone could have realised just how life-changing and life-affirming it could be. And maybe that's a good place to leave it here. So with the amount of information that is kind of available in this present day, you can only ever choose information on how it resonates with you and how it feels. And quite similar to our food, hey, you know good food, and I'll do a video on food shortly, because it is just fundamental. It's our building block. But yeah, we're in a truly exciting time where we know that organic food is just where it's at. That helps us replenish Gaia soils, replenishes us, helps rebuild communities. So you can only ever do what feels right with you, and that, I believe, is your truth. So it's just what feels right. I'm walking through the woods. No, it feels really good. So I've been T-Rad, and this is T-Trail. It's really good to see you guys. It's been some time. I hope you're all well. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you out on the trail soon. All right, peace.